Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and evolve the modern-day deer hunter. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Deer Hunter Podcast. How the hell are you doing? Hanging in there? Everybody doing okay? It's been an interesting couple weeks, huh? Lots of us are not working at all. Lots of us are putting in a bunch of hours. Lots of us are spending time on social media, getting aggravated. It's been a crazy couple weeks, huh? We haven't talked a whole lot about deer hunting here in the past couple weeks because my life has been consumed by work and the hospitals and this COVID epidemic that we've been dealing with. So, we're just playing it as it goes. I got the new studio up and running, which is kind of nice. It's a little echoey in here. I got some sound dampening that needs to be taken care of. But finally getting time tonight to sit down and edit the podcast that I recorded last weekend with Mark Kenyon. I'm excited to share with you guys. It's a good conversation. We talk about deer hunting, talk about being I guess not locked up in your own house, but kind of in some regard, right? Everybody's spending way more time at home than what they're used to. Mark's been doing that for a long time, working from home. So he's got some tips and pointers. We talk about that. We talk about deer hunting. We talk about Mark's book, creating a writing process, what it takes to write a book, like behind the scenes. I was kind of interested about that. And being that Mark just did it, I wanted to kind of dive into it, see what happens, all the stuff that happens, like I said, behind the scenes that you don't know about. So I'm just sitting down in the studio here right now. I think I'm going to crack an ice cold beer. And my wife and kid are inside watching some television. And apparently Ryan and Drew and Nick and I are going to attempt to do a remote podcast via Skype here in the next couple minutes. So we're going to get tuned in, and get another episode recorded. I have a special guest that's going to be on this weekend. I've alluded a little bit to it on social media. I don't really want to say who it is yet in case it falls through because I feel like it has a good chance to. High profile individual that was really hard to get scheduled, but it is scheduled, and I feel like he will uphold what he told me. So that should be happening this weekend. It's going to be an outstanding conversation. It's going to be a podcast that I think everybody's really going to like, really going to take a lot from. And I don't know. It's somebody outside of the hunting industry. Well, I don't want to talk too much about it, hype it up too much, but I'm excited about it. So that being said, we got a couple good things coming up. The new studio's up and running. It's great. It's lonely. I'll say that. I'm lonely. It's lonely in here. I've struggled in the last couple weeks to find the motivation to do this podcast. The thing I love most about it is socializing and gathering, getting together and conversing. Sitting down to do this all by myself. Even on the phone, it just doesn't nearly have the same appeal. Come on in, Gunner. Sorry, my kid's knocking on the door. He wants to come out here. Oh, Mom's yelling at him now. He's going back in. Oh, man. God bless all you parents, all of us. It's, we love our kids to death, but geez, what peace, man. Being locked in the house with them for a month and them not having any way to get their energy out. It's just, that's a double-edged sword. So, interesting times. fun. I have been enjoying being home with the family. It's been cool. I feel bad for anybody that thinks it's the worst thing ever to be not at work and at home spending some time with your family. I'd say you have to take a long, hard look at what you're doing with your life if that's what makes you miserable. But that being said, moving on, some deer hunting conversation this week with an outstanding deer hunter and one of the front runners of the deer hunting podcast space, Mark Kenyon. So, that being said, everybody take care of yourselves here. We'll be out of this nonsense before you know it and back to the new normal, whatever the hell that's going to be. And before you know it, summer will have passed, fall will be setting in, and we'll all be going deer hunting. So, we'll catch you back here next week on the Deer Hunter Podcast. See ya! I wanted to start out with, I had seen, maybe it was on your podcast that you had talked about or something that you had posted about you have successfully been able to work from home for years, and I know a lot of people their world has been flipped upside down here in the last couple weeks. But what kind of adjustments have you had to make? But you like you said, it didn't really change your normal for your work week, right?
Yeah, with the whole lockdown, you're right. It hasn't changed things too much for me because I've been working full-time from home since the fall of 2013. So that's been a pretty long time. I've been working at home, and then my wife started working at home in 2014. And we've had a child with us at home for 2 years now. So we've been working at home with kids for 2 years, working at home without kids for another 5 years before that. So this wasn't too different. The only big difference I'd say for us has been that my mother-in-law usually comes twice a week to help watch the kids, and we now have a newborn too. We've got a 2-month-old. So that's the biggest thing, is that my mother-in-law hasn't come the 2 days a week as often to be able to help with them. And then also, I think we've just been dealing with this adjustment over the last 2 months of adding the baby to the mix, and that's our big challenge. So that's not necessarily coronavirus induced. I guess that was by way of our own planning, and now we're reaping the consequences. But yeah, it's been okay. We're just doing our best to stay healthy and keep on keeping on.
We utilize, under normal circumstances, my parents and my wife's mother as well to help, just balance things out. And it's really nice. And when that is taken away from you, I know a lot of people don't have that help, but it sure is nice to have.
Oh, yeah. It's the kids can be a lot of work, that's for sure. I guess parenting's supposed to be hard work, right? So
how old is your oldest son now?
He's just a little bit over 2.
He is. Is he missing grandparents and ask? My kid's he's 5 now, and it's hard to explain to him what's going on and why he can't go to school and why he can't see his friends.
Yeah, my son doesn't quite understand that kind of stuff yet. He's just kind of happy-go-lucky, just doing his thing. Mm-hmm. But I know he is excited. Like when we FaceTime with the grandparents, he's really excited to see them, and often we'll ask if Nana's coming over and that kind of thing. So he's pretty oblivious, I guess, though, to the overall scope of things, and he's just liking the fact he gets to see Mom and Dad even more than usual, I guess.
How is this personally affecting your workload? Because under normal circumstances, you're doing a lot of traveling. You're planning to do a lot of traveling, right? Are you kind of? Yeah. It's probably impacting you right now, and I'm assuming you're looking forward and seeing things that are going to be heavily impacted in 2020.
Yeah, for sure. A lot. All of our travel has been canceled, and so I had a number of trips lined up, and I also produce and host a show called The Back 40, which we record here in Michigan, but we bring in cameramen from other states and people from other states and guests and stuff like that. And so obviously we're not doing any of those things anymore. So all the filming that we planned for the spring has been put on hold. So all that's been a big change. As far as my day-to-day work, recording podcasts, writing articles, all that kind of stuff, social media, that's actually maybe scaled up a little bit more because everyone's at home. Everybody wants content. There seems to be a greater demand than ever for something to distract folks from the craziness going on right now in the world. So at Meat Eater, we're trying to scale up what we're doing. So trying to write more, trying to record more, trying to do more projects like that. So definitely staying busy with those things, even though I'm not traveling.
Is it giving you an opportunity to get anything that has maybe been like a something that's on the back burner that you wanted to do or gonna do that in the in the next coming months?
Yeah, I was hoping that would be the case. It hasn't happened yet. There's been so many just like immediate needs still that haven't got to do that. But I guess I don't want this thing to go on very long. But I guess if it does go on longer, I will be able to get to some of those things probably.
Yeah.
Because there definitely is an opportunity to try to tackle some of that stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Did you have any out of state turkey stuff planned, or was your stuff planned here for local?
I had a little bit. I was considering a Nebraska turkey hunt, and then also plans to actually go to Texas for a turkey hunt. And so all that got canceled, and was planning on doing an out of state shed hunt at the end of last month, and that got canceled. So yeah, a bunch of those things are not happening. And I was considering a bear hunt. That's not happening. So pretty much everything fun this spring got put on hold.
I am very hopeful that our resident turkey season doesn't get messed with in any capacity. So far, everything looks
Yeah.
good. I see the state released the email yesterday that the leftover licenses are now available. I see guys are buying their licenses online. I'm hopeful that that isn't the case because that is like the one kind of thing. I guess that's the next coming thing that I have to look forward to.
Yeah, ditto. I think it's probably smart to snatch up a license right now before there's a chance of anything else happening.
Yeah,
I
I
uh,
I agree with that.
I probably will be doing the same thing. It's one of those years though where I'm really going to wish that Michigan allowed multiple turkey tags. This would be a year. It'd be nice to be able to be a state like Montana or Nebraska where you can get 3 or 4 birds. Just so you'd have an excuse to get out there and do a little bit more since we're limited in our other options.
Yeah, one thing I really like about turkey hunting versus deer hunting is how friendly it is for doing it with other people.
Yo,
I really enjoy going out with friends, and honestly, I had plans this year to take a first time turkey hunter, and I was more excited to go out there and film him and just kind of see his reaction and expose him to, spring morning turkey hunting as much as I was to get a bird myself. But yeah,
agreed.
that puts the question, are we going to be able to be getting together with people that we haven't seen, here in the next. I don't know when your turkey season opens. I usually defer to the late season there and towards the end of April, beginning of May.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I am kind of assuming going into it that we probably won't be supposed to do that kind of thing. I'm guessing, so it's probably going to have to be solo turkey hunting for a lot of us, unless you got household family members. So
How
I know that my 2-year-old son's really gotten into turkeys, and so my saving grace is that he's expressed a lot of interest in trying to call turkeys and listen to turkeys. So we've been going out into the woods and walking around, and I've been teaching him how to use a slate call, and so it'll be fun to try to call some birds in for him.
nice? Yeah, my 5-year-old. I've wondered how that's gonna go. Like I suspect I could take him out there in the blind and take enough snacks, and I don't know how I feel about introducing bringing a tablet with him to keep him occupied. I mean, I know that
Right.
that strategy works if I want to keep him calm and quiet for a period of
Right.
time, if I give him an electronic device. But I don't know if that's how I want to start him off his
Yeah,
exposure to hunting.
good question. It's a good question. It's good to get them out there, but do you sacrifice something by having to use that tool? I don't know.
Right. Where do you personally stand on turkey hunting? I know growing up, I've been turkey hunting for, I don't know, 10, 15 years now, and it wasn't really until the last couple of years where I actually started getting excited about turkey hunting. Have you loved it for a long time, or is it kind of just something to fill the time?
So we didn't turkey hunt in my family growing up. So it wasn't until I went off on my own that I decided I wanted to try to learn to do it and teach myself. So I started turkey hunting probably when I was, I don't know, 21, and so just self-taught, trying to figure it out for my own. And pretty much ever since the first time I tried it, I was hooked. I loved it. So, yeah, I mean, what am I? I'm 32 now, so 10, 11 years, something like that. I've been turkey hunting, and I really geek out. It's just a lot of fun getting to have that audio experience and connection with a bird and trying to call them in, and spring morning hearing those gobbles in the distance. It's hard to beat that. So I get excited for that this time of year.
I do too. It's that really nice, rare period of time in Michigan where it's nice out, but you're not being harassed by bugs to the point where you
Right.
want to kill yourself.
Yeah, it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's just about a 4 week period where it's just absolutely gorgeous out there, and you get those crisp, clean mornings. And yeah, man, I don't know hearing that first gobble fire up in the morning. If that doesn't get you going, then you're a lot different than me.
Yeah, I heard my first gobble of the year. Oh, I think the end of last week. I usually go for a run first thing in the morning, and so those morning runs, I've started hearing them gobbling off across the fields. So it's happening.
You talked about the multiple tag thing. Last year I moved now, but the home that I had previous to this, I actually lived on the road that was the county line. So I had my tag for the county that I lived in, and across the street was another county. And I'd go bird hunting, and I'd come home and just even shut the car door, and right across the street, there'd be a bunch of toms in the field fire up. And it was so frustrating that I couldn't just walk over there and go get one of these birds because I was kind of struggling on the properties that I had permission on. But
Right.
yeah, all spring really, those birds would be out there, and you could just be doing something in your yard and hear a gobble come across, and it just completely erases everything you're doing momentarily.
hmm
And
I guess that's the nice thing. Even though we can't get multiple tags here in Michigan, and even though we're stuck at home and can't go off and do different things, at least with turkeys, it's so much fun just to hear them and call them and try to bring them in. Like, even if I wasn't out there with a gun, if you just told me all I could do is take my calls out into the woods, I think that would be just about as much fun. Like, I'll be perfectly happy running around the woods just trying to call one in, just to do it. So I think if I'm getting bored this spring, if the kids are down for a nap and somehow I don't have 17 things on my to-do list, I might sneak out and just try to call in a bird for just for the fun of it.
I do agree with that. In the aspect of like deer hunting, I once you do have a deer down and you can just stand there and look at it for, I mean, I can for days if I've got once I get a deer, I can just uh, whatever. It's just a different, I enjoy maybe the activity of turkey hunting more than the success. Whereas with deer hunting, I definitely am driven to be successful.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a cool thing. They've all got their special aspects. Thank goodness keeps our year interesting all throughout.
It does. I'm having to play with our audio a little bit here on the fly. For some reason, you had gone up and down, but right now sounds just awesome.
This is okay.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Um, I was going to ask you, moving away from turkey hunting, I want to kind of dive back. The last time I saw you was right when you started working for Meat Eater. I think there was a BHA event somewhere downtown Detroit, and that was right around the time
Oh
where,
yeah.
yeah, what's that been 2 years now?
Yeah, that's probably right. Um, what was that for? That was was it the storytelling night? Was that it?
I think it was. Yes, that is what it
Yep.
was. Yep. Because I remember Ron Bame was there, and he had
Yep.
traveled across the state and come over that day and sat down, did my podcast, and then we kind of headed down there. together, and it was an interesting evening. I'd never gone downtown Detroit for an outdoor event.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not your typical place to do it, but it
No,
worked out really nice.
yeah, it's one of the cool things that BHA does is kind of think outside the box and try to reach new people. And there was no doubt when you looked around that crowd, it was sure a lot different than being at a Pheasants Forever banquet or a QDMA thing as far as like the demographic of individuals that was in that building.
Yep.
But that was right when you started working for Meat Eater, correct?
I think so. I think that sounds about right to me, give or take, somewhere in that ballpark.
Do you kind of feel like you've found your home? I mean, you had been doing a couple different. I know you'd been working with the Drury's right then and there previous to that, which seemed like it was going to be a big, obviously the Drury's they're kind of a household name for whitetails, and that's specifically what you were doing. And then you kind of transitioned into working for Meat Eater, and man, I'm just impressed with how rapidly Meat Eater grew to. I feel like they're a household name, and I know Renella's been doing stuff for quite some time, but I feel like they came on really fast and really strong, and now you're kind of part of that brand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been running my own business from 2013 on, running Wired to Hunt, and that was great. I mean, it was the dream job. Absolutely loved it, and got to collaborate with some cool people. Did a co-hosted podcast with the Drurys, which was a fun project to work on. But I really had no interest in doing anything other than my own business. I loved what I was doing, but eventually, those last couple of years of doing that, I started having inklings of like what's next, how do I take this thing to the next level, how do I achieve my next goals, and more so my goals were less about I just want to build a business, or less of I just want this thing to be helpful or popular or whatever, more to the point where I wanted to try to do something that um, it's a cliche thing to say, but I was trying to figure out how do I leave my mark, how do I do something that makes a difference. Um, and so when Steve approached me with this idea that they were going to take Meat Eater from just a TV show and they were going to expand it into a much larger media network, um, and he asked me if I wanted to bring my brand and myself into that family, it was really compelling. It was a really compelling offer, and I thought I would have that opportunity to work on something that could really make a big difference and be a part of something new in that way. And that was right around the time I was also working on my book, which was related very much to these bigger picture, how do you make a difference type of themes. So it all seemed to kind of make sense, and the timing came together really well. And it was a tough decision, but I'm glad I went with it. It's been great. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff. It's challenging. It's pushing me in new ways, forcing me to learn new things. But it's given me a lot of cool opportunities, and got to work with a lot of great people, and yeah, that's what I've been doing now for I guess almost exactly 2 months now, or not 2 months, 2 years now. Wired to Hunt and me have been part of the Meat Eater network. Um, so yeah, I'm still running the Wired to Hunt podcast as part of that, and then I do a bunch of writing for Meat Eater, and then I host a show, like I mentioned earlier, a TV show essentially. Um, and then all sorts of other cool side projects. So it's a great thing. It's been great. I've been very, very thankful it's worked out.
I feel like you're one of the individuals that I know that has successfully been able to like determine your own wealth, if that makes sense. Like you've created your own brand, and you're focused enough to work hard to start your own business. You did something a little bit differently, and even though you're part of Meat Eater right now, you still operate your own, your entity within that.
Yep.
And I just feel like you've put yourself in a pretty secure place, and you've done something that a lot of people desire to do versus working directly for an employer who tells you, hey, you're worth this much an hour to me, and maybe in 90 days we can talk about giving you a raise. You let someone else determine your wealth versus what
Right.
you've done. The earlier you get up and the later you stay up and the more you get done, kind of determines your success.
Yeah, you see a direct return on that investment.
Was
And
that
yeah, I've been really lucky it's worked out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I know you are like a Gary Vanderchuk fan, and
Yep.
I mean, was that kind of your thought process from the beginning?
Sort of. I mean, my if you count the beginning as being when I graduated from college, like that first year out of college, yes. But in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be in business and big fancy marketing and advertising, all that kind of stuff. But I took a job out of college that took me into like the tech and marketing world, and that's when I discovered Gary Vaynerchuk, which is around the same time that I realized, oh, this job I just started, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be in the big city working for some big fancy company that, sure, that sounds great in theory, but it wasn't something that was going to wake me up in the morning excited and passionate about what I was doing. So as I was having the same thoughts and worries, I came across this book by Gary Vee. It's called Crush It. It's all about, making a living from your passion and how you can do that. And so I read that book, and I don't know. I think I finished it at like 1 in the morning, and I decided right then and there. I said, "Okay, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do." And I'd already started Wired to Hunt as a blog the summer before that I just kind of was playing around with, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to turn that thing into my life, how I make a living. And then basically from that point on, that was the plan, and worked, like you said, just worked really hard and for a long time to make that happen. But that was a long time ago. It's been a long process to get to here. It's not an overnight success kind of thing that a lot of people dream of or wish was the case.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, I mean, just from what I've watched you do over the course of the last, it's been 5 or 6 years since I've,
Yeah.
discovered Wired to Hunt. I gotta imagine that you are in a place right now that you probably didn't foresee yourself being in when you started this, and
Yeah.
I would think you gotta be pretty happy because I feel like nobody's doing what you guys collectively are doing right now.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. You're right. You're 100% right. I definitely would not have expected this 10 years ago. I mean, I could have hoped for it, but,
Hmm.
sometimes it seems like there's a difference between what you expect and you hope. But it's funny, and I think all of us probably in our own way are guilty of this. Um, it's really easy to just focus on what is next or what you think you should be doing or should be doing better. I have a hard time reminding myself to just appreciate the now. So I have to purposefully stop and remind myself to like, oh man, you know what? Take a deep second or take a deep breath for a second. Stop stressing out. Things have worked out pretty well. You've got a lot to be thankful for. Yeah, maybe this one thing didn't go the way you wanted to, or maybe this other person's doing something that you wish you could be doing, or whatever. There's always that kind of stuff that as humans we're sometimes susceptible to.
Hmm.
And I try to do the best I can to remind myself that I don't have a single thing to complain about. I've been very, very blessed to be able to do what I do, and so I'm trying to do a better job personally of just appreciating it and being thankful for what I do have. Because yeah, 10 years ago, if you told me I was able to do this, I would have told you you were nuts. So I gotta be appreciative of that.
Yeah, I mean to be, you know, making be part of a very popular outdoor television show that the production level is, you know, it's right up there with anything that's ever been done as far as producing outdoor content. And then the people that you are involved with, I'm always stay real conscious of you are personally you're like a collective of the people that you surround yourself by, and
Yeah.
man, it seems like you've really nailed it as far as surrounding yourself with just exceptionally driven and talented people.
Yeah, I mean that's something I definitely agree with you. Like I think that's something to be mindful of. I've always wanted to be pushed and to be around people that will push you and that you can learn from. What's that saying? If you find yourself the smartest person in the room, or if you're always the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong rooms. So
Yeah.
I think that's something I try to do. I love to be challenged and pushed and to grow, and being part of Meat Eaters is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I wish some people would apply that when they go on social media these days and post things and realize
Yeah,
that that is a giant room and you're not always the smartest person, but a lot of people
yeah,
seem to desire to be that. But yeah, I don't know when that flipped for me. I know that in my 20s I was definitely more arrogant, and it's just amazing how in 10 years I've made the switch from thinking I'm really smart and knowing a lot to feeling like that is not, that is the exact opposite of actually what's going on.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a good thing. One thing I like in people is when you have got someone who is willing to admit when they're wrong and willing to acknowledge that they don't know everything, that they want to learn, and that they might be. I think the willingness to learn, the willingness to have your mind changed, the willingness to do any of those things that are a little bit vulnerable, I think that makes for a more interesting and fun person to be around, at least.
Yeah, and I feel like that mindset of not feeling like you know everything is very helpful for people that are working in television or creating media like you do. Um, it's kind of a process, and there's a lot of like being told what to do and then being told to do it again, and you just have to have somewhat of a like a submissive mindset to a producer. Have you enjoyed doing television?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and different than I guess I was expecting. Coming from, I had, self filmed my own like YouTube videos and stuff for years. Um, but then going from that to a legitimate, full scale television crew style, show. We basically film the Back 40 just like we film our Netflix show. So it's that kind of thing. Um, and so, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot more planning. There's a lot more production work going on behind the scenes. Um, a lot of work. It's just a lot of work. And we really try to have a really well thought out story and narrative structure. It does not come together just willy nilly like I think some people imagine a hunting show might come together. It's like, oh, well, they're going to go out hunting and they're just going to film it all and there's a show. Um, it's not nearly that simple. So that's been a huge learning experience for me over the last year. It was a huge undertaking, but it was really cool to see it come together. And prior to this whole debacle this spring, we had big plans for season two. I don't know what's going to happen here in the long run. Depends on how long all this lasts, but hopefully we'll have a chance to try it again and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like there's enough intelligent people involved at Meat Eater that they'll figure some way to get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, in some of the personnel, I mean, you could just film Ranella probably within his household during the day, and it would be very entertaining for people to watch.
Yep. Yep. People definitely enjoy getting a look into his mind. That's for sure.
One thing with film and outdoor television versus like somebody that maybe does movies or like a sitcom or something like that is there's an element of it that you can't control, which is the fact that you're going after wild animals that aren't going to read the script, and you can have this perfect plan put in place, but it can all get screwed up real quick with weather and with animals, and now you've got a lot invested in time and money and logistics to have this plan, and it can get screwed up real fast, and it can be a pretty emotional thing when things start to go south. You do have to be working with level-headed people to try to keep the mindset strong and try to finish out a project.
Oh yeah, big time. We definitely felt all of that this past year. I mean, on our back 40, it's supposed to be a hunting show, but we weren't seeing deer and we weren't seeing any big bucks or anything, that traditionally folks would want to see in a hunting show. So yeah, there were all those concerns and worries, and there's nothing you can really do about it. The premise of the show is that we're on this little 64-acre chunk that we're trying to figure out and trying to improve a little bit. But in year one, there was just not a lot of activity there. So we had to film a TV show where most days we weren't seeing any deer at all. Now, we got lucky in that in the end I did we did shoot a doe one weekend, and I did get a shot at a buck. So fate was smiling on us. We had a miracle. It worked out in that regard. But we had a whole lot of other episodes that, there was not any of the traditional stuff happening. I mean, we had an eight episode season, and there's, one buck that, most hunting TV shows would not consider that a big buck, which, is something that we personally, I think leading into it, we knew this. And then afterwards, especially, obviously that's not what this show was about. It wasn't about trying to kill like big giant bucks. It was about this bigger picture story. And so we were planning on doing this, but we really were forced into doing even more, which was leaning into the story, leaning into the other things that are going on, really having a true narrative of this personal journey I was going on throughout this year, trying to undertake this project, and then the journey of this property, getting to know the land, getting to know the animals, getting to understand what we might be able to do to help nourish this place. So by focusing on the story and not worrying so much about footage of big deer or whatever, we're able to put together a show still. But it is not anything like most things you would see on outdoor TV. The biggest buck on there was like 105 inches, and you've got about 20 seconds of that buck, and then everything else you see the whole season is like spikes and forkers and stuff like that. But it is what it is, and it was a great experience still.
Yeah, I think that's good. I personally, a lot of outdoor television pertaining to whitetail deer hunting, I think, has done a disservice to actually what whitetail deer hunting is
Right.
for the for most households and most individuals. It's somewhat unrealistic, and I feel
Yep.
like bringing it back to reality helps people connect to it, and it also, I think, lends itself to, I don't know, just people being a little more respectful of the actual activity. This wasn't on my list of things to talk to, but I just mention it real quick that, a couple weeks ago when people started ransacking the grocery stores, you kind of saw what people prioritize, and red meat was one of the things that just was not on the shelf, and you saw a lot of people. It wasn't maybe done in the most tasteful way. People were being a bit condescending about it, but opened up their freezers and, posting on Instagram, this is a good time to be a hunter and have a freezer full of meat. And
Oh
honestly,
yeah.
that was the truth of it. And I wondered if it would have, an impact going forward, just because it's such a unique scenario that happened with this whole event, that it is, man, it's really nice to have that.
Yeah, I'm super thankful that's something I don't need to worry about. We're well set on protein at least.
Mark, I want to dive into your book. I know we got limited time here today. I've just been swamped with workload. I have not had the opportunity to sit down and read anything in the last 6 months. So I have not had the opportunity to read your book yet, and it is on my priority list. There's two books right now that I want to read. One is a parenting book, which is something that's really important to me right now as I'm trying to raise a kid, and then the other is your book, because I really like the story about public lands, and it wasn't later. It was probably when I was in my early 30s that I feel like I kind of grasped the understanding of how lucky we are to have that, and if it was ever taken away, that it's kind of my happy thing, and I would be pretty miserable. Um, I want to dive into like the beginning thought, like where were you when did you initially have the thought that you wanted to write that book, tell that story?
So, I alluded earlier in our conversation to the fact that at some point in my self-employed career, I started realizing I wanted to figure out what's next. How do I start making a difference? Right around that same time, I also am doing these annual goals. I sit down and I'm always thinking, okay, what's the big thing I'm going to do this year? What's one big new project? And I think it was in 2015 or 2016. It's hard to keep the dates right, but somewhere in that region, I decided, you know what, it's time to finally do a book. It's something I'd always wanted to do. I'd always dreamt of doing. Um, I knew it was a dream project. Finally decided, okay, you need to buckle down and figure out how to do a book. So that became like a project I was going to start working towards. So I started working with a book agent to work through how do you go about getting a book or a book deal? How do you go about doing that kind of thing? And right around that same time was when a lot of the current events around the land transfer movement were picking up steam. So, as I know you're aware of, there was this increasing rise of political pressure to sell off or transfer public lands. So, as I'm learning more and more about that and getting more and more concerned by, the possibility of maybe us losing these places that, are so special that we use to hunt and fish and camp and hike and all this stuff, that coincided with the same time I was thinking that I really wanted to write a book. And it kind of coalesced around those two things together when I realized, okay, this is the thing. This is this issue that I'm really concerned about right now and I'm passionate about, and I'm realizing there's so much I need to learn about. That seems like what I need to write about, because I want to learn about this stuff. There's so much I don't know, even though I'm so involved in this world. If I don't know about all the history of this stuff or the deeper story about this whole issue, if I don't know that stuff, and I live in that community, there must be a lot of people across the country who don't know anything about this stuff that really should. So that was kind of the impetus for the book. And then that began a very long process of getting a book deal and researching and traveling, and then ultimately writing. And the project kind of spanned from 2013 all the way into 2016, all the way into 2019. And the book was published this past December, so December 2019.
So the first step was you essentially reached out to a publisher.
So the way it works is you've got to get an agent first. So you work with a book agent or publishing agent, and I guess the correct terminology would be literary agent. So you get a literary agent, and then with my agent, we crafted a proposal, which is essentially like a really thorough document outlining the book idea with sample chapters and outlines and marketing plans and demographic plans for your audience that'll read the book, and a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's a very big, exhaustive, thorough, like 60-page document, essentially outlining everything I'm going to do with this book. And then my agent takes that to the publishing houses in New York and pitches that to all the big publishers. And then you have calls with publishers that kind of interview you to ask you more about your idea, or what are you going to do about this, or how are you going to approach this topic, or whatever. And then eventually, if a handful of different companies are interested in the book, then you get to pick which of those folks you want to take up on the offer, and then you get a book deal. And then from there, you then have to write the thing.
Yeah, did you at that point? Well, I'm just going off of what I know. Like when we decided that we were going to make a film, similar, we reached out to the companies that we want to be involved with it, and once we got the green light, there was a period of time where I started to feel some pressures. Like, all right, now they're expecting this, and I have to do it. I mean, did you feel any of that, or was it more just like excitement?
It was definitely both, but no doubt about it, there's pressure. It was, I mean, it's the most daunting level of a project I've ever taken on. There's nothing I've done, not anything, not hosting the show, not working for Mediator, not running my own business. Nothing has been more challenging than trying to write a book like this. Just the level of work it takes was just on a different scale. So the way it is, you agree to a book deal, you commit to doing this, and this company pays you in advance up front. So they pay you a certain amount of money ahead of time. And then they'll pay a certain amount of money after you deliver the finished book to them. And so, yeah, basically, not only did I have the commitment of I had signed a contract saying I was going to do this, but then also they already given me money up front that if I didn't do it, I'd owe back. So it was really like, hey, you have to do this thing. You said you're going to write this book. Now this thing is due in a year or whatever. You better figure out how to get it done. And that was at the same time that I was starting with Meat so I had all the new things around that. It was also the year that my first son was born, so I was learning how to be a dad. So all of that made for just a huge whirlwind of change and challenges. and it led to just a whole lot of very, very early mornings and very, very late nights. Um, but it came together, and when it did, it was, it's the thing that I'm most proud of. It's absolutely the thing I'm most proud of.
I could see that. One thing, uh, you know, when I think about somebody writing a book is that nothing happens quickly. It like I like things like painting a wall or like mowing the grass because I can see immediate results.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like you gotta have a long time and nothing's gonna happen real quickly to see your return on your investment.
That is the truth. That is absolutely the truth. It was a very long, long time to see a return on that investment. But like I just said, like now holding that thing in my hand, or getting a note from someone who is inspired by it or impacted by it, um, it's just like you can. There's some mountains, like there's this place, Mount Washington, out in New Hampshire, and you can actually drive a car to the top of the mountain. There's a road up to the top of the mountain, so you can get to that same place. But if you were to climb to the top of that mountain by your feet, which you can do, so I've climbed to the top of this mountain by the trail, and the view at the top of that mountain after that horrible slog of a hike to the top, I guarantee you, is 10,000 times sweeter than the view if you drive to the top. And that's how I feel with this book. It is a tangible thing, so I can enjoy the view, I can enjoy the return of my investment. But because it was a 15-mile, 5,000 feet of elevation gain, hellhole of a hike to the top, this view, this return on my investment is that much better because of how hard it was. At least that's how I look at it and feel about it.
I feel that way too. I try to relate that to everything. If you were just to hand me, say, a check for $2,000 and I didn't do anything, you just gave it to me, uh, I'm really gonna like that. But if I had to work really hard, and do something to get that check, I'm gonna appreciate that money more. And I think about that like when you work out and stuff too. It's not about the end result that makes you as excited as consciously knowing how hard you had to work to achieve those results. And
Yeah,
that applies with exactly with what you're talking about.
definitely, definitely.
I'm curious, what was your process for writing? Like, I know when I had to narrate my film, I sat down and I got started, and I'm like, oh wow, I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I had to like create a process. I mean, were you doing all your writing in the evening or in the morning? Uh, I'm just kind of curious of how that went for you.
Yeah, it varied a lot. Because as I mentioned, my whole life was kind of changing around that same time that I was really getting deep into the writing because we had a son. So my whole schedule was changing as we were trying to adapt to how do we sleep? How do we do all these things when he's waking up in the middle of the night, or just how do we do all that kind of stuff? So for a while there, it was just fitting it in whenever I could. Because basically, I had a full time job of writing a book on top of a full time job, my regular full time job. And I was trying to figure out how do I slip in all the book work on the edges. So staying up late, waking up early. So it's kind of just here and there when I could for the first half of that year. This would have been 2018 was when most of the writing occurred. And then the back half of the year, and then especially like the last few months and the first month of January the next year, it was much more of a process when I realized that, okay, we're down to the final countdown and you really, really, really have to buckle down and get this locked in. And so that's when I was waking up at 4 a.m., I think, every morning and trying to work for 3 hours before my son woke up. And then every night after we put him down to bed, I'd go back to the office and work for a few more hours on it. And so that's when I got my best writing done, was those first few hours of the day and the last few hours of the night. When there was nothing else to distract me, I'd turn off the lights in my office, put on one lamp on the table. I had like one playlist, a random weird band that for some reason just became like my soundtrack to writing this book. That would play on repeat, and I would light a candle and I would just go and go and go. You have to turn off everything, turn off, keep my phone away from me, keep Facebook off, any distraction. I knew I would be susceptible to those things, and I would be often. So I'd do my very best to get rid of all distractions, and then just try to write, and just do something, get something on the paper. Oftentimes, the words weren't flowing, or there was writer's block, or different things like that. And my constant push to myself was just get something. You just have to get some words on the paper, and once something gets out there, then you start to develop a little bit of a snowball, and then slowly it becomes a snowman, I guess. If you can just get something out of the page, it grows and grows and grows, but you have to get something. So that's my approach, is just get a crappy word out there, and then if I can get one crappy word, I can get two crappy words. And if I can get three, then maybe I'll get to 4 and 5, and then eventually it'll become sentences and paragraphs and pages. And then I can go back and rewrite and fix and edit and craft and fine tune. But you got to get that crappy stuff out there first, because that's the bones of it. So my way of writing is getting a really lousy skeleton on the page, because that's the only way I can get anything out there. And then I come back and I polish and I polish and I polish and I polish for days and days.
Yeah, that makes sense. The little bit of writing that I've done, I kind of feel like it's like running. You start off and it's kind of hard, and then at some point you're in rhythm and you're in stride, and you're like, oh, I could do this all day. Like, I feel great. And yeah, that process, like you were talking about, putting music on, light the candle, turn everything else off. That's kind of getting you to that spot where you're just kind of humming. And
Yeah.
then once you get flowing, it feels good, and it starts to get exciting. Or at least it did for me.
Yeah, when it's going well, it's a great feeling. Or the best feeling for me is when I write that last sentence of a paragraph or of a chapter or something, and it just like I'm like, ooh, yes, like you just got that feeling. Yeah, that is good. Like, that is exactly how I wanted it to end, or that came together so nicely. That feeling, when I can read something as a reader, and that like just is satisfying. When you can write something that does that, for someone like me who's just like a huge writing and book geek, like I just love the written word. To do that is just as good as making a perfect shot on a buck or something like that.
We got just a couple minutes left here, so I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I just got a couple quick hitters, a
Yeah.
little rapid fire that will close this thing out on. Did you fall in love with that process? Do you like doing that? Are you gonna do another book, or was it so much work to where you're like, I mean, usually when you do things for the first time, I know in my experience, I look back and say, oh wow, I learned a lot doing that. I could do it so much better the next time, or I say, I didn't really get that much out of it like I thought I would. I'm probably not gonna do that again. Are you gonna do another book?
Yeah. It was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. The most painful work process probably I've ever taken on, but absolutely the most fulfilling. So yes, I'm planning on writing a lot more books over the years. So it's in the works. It's in the works.
Good stuff, man. Hey, I got a couple rapid fire questions for you. All right.
Okay.
Mark Kenyon, we are in unprecedented times, and we are locked down. The grocery stores are being pillaged, and you're going to be stuck at home for 4 weeks. What is in Mark Kenyon's grocery cart that he cannot live without for 4 weeks?
uh, Frozen pizza.
Any brand in particular?
We usually go with the DiGiorno.
Okay.
I want some bubbly. I like my lemon lime and my cherry bubbly water. And I eat a whole lot of yogurt, which is a weird thing. But I do like protein shakes in the morning with Greek yogurt. I do like Greek yogurt for breakfast with the oatmeal. So there's definitely going to be some of that. And then I got to have some Mexican food. So I need my salsa, my chips, and my toppings for tacos, because if everything hits the fan, at least I can have venison tacos, venison burritos, venison enchiladas. You can do something every week and keep it fresh.
Okay. You got one option: liquor shelf, beer cave. You got to grab one thing that is going to be your go-to for a period of time, and you're not going to be able to access anything else. What's it going to be?
Man, if I had to pick one right now, the first that jumps to my mind is I really love Dirty Blonde by Atwater Brewing. It's a good beer.
That is a good beer. I agree with that. Pretty smooth, good
Yeah.
flavor, not too
Yes.
overpowering, but you can drink a lot of them.
Yep. It's got that perfect middle ground where it's not like drinking tap water, but it's not so heavy hitting that you can't have a few.
I agree with that. Hunting clothing. You've got you got to just grab a couple things that thinking about the comfort factor. Let's go with like 3 items. What's the 3 items you can't go without?
Well, I really love having a super lightweight packable puffy as just like that oh shit piece that you just always have in the bottom of your pack. So for me, that's like the Brooks jacket from First Light, really lightweight, small puffy. So I'm always going to bring that with me on any kind of trip. It'll be as that backup insulator. Then I want some kind of hard shell. So in most cases, it's going to be like for me, it's a Catalyst jacket, something windproof, but something that can insulate you a little bit, and you can go walking through the woods and get scuffed up on briars and prickers and not have it get torn up. So something along those lines. And then gotta have good base layers. Gotta have good wool base layers. Whether you are hiking in September up in the mountains, you need something that's going to wick away that moisture. Or if you are sitting in a tree stand in December, you want something that's going to also handle moisture but insulate you still and keep that scent taken down too, with all that antimicrobial benefits of wool. You can't beat that.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. That is a game-changing tool. Mark, where's the best place that everybody can go? Is there a place? What's your preferred place that is there a way that benefits you more than others when people want to purchase and read your book?
Yeah, so the book's called That Wild Country, and I would tell you to go two places. If you want to pick it up and support Meat Eater as well, Meat Eater just recently got it up on their website, so you can buy it from themeateater.com. But if you're not going to do that, the other option I would recommend is hit up a local bookstore, because right now local bookstores aren't open across the country. You can't go to them, so these places are really struggling. But many of them are still accepting online orders or phone orders, and I think those companies are in dire need right now. And if they don't get support, we're probably going to lose a lot of bookstores. So if you like books like I do, it'd be a travesty to see those places disappear. So if you're going to buy it, I would encourage you to check out one of those two.
I'll tag all that stuff in the show notes as well as Wired to Hunt and Meat Eater, where everybody can find everything that you're doing. Mark, I appreciate your time today. I will cut you loose so you can get busy on with whatever you got going today. I really do look forward to this whole thing being over, and hopefully all of us hunters and anglers are getting together at some event here sooner and later and having a couple beers and sharing some fun stories, because I really do. I miss my extended outdoor family.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm right there with you. Hoping it happens soon.
Okay, Mark, you take care. Have a good day, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity. Had a good time.
Okay, Mark, take care. Bye.